Okay, thanks for participating in the Tech Tuesday today. Today we're going to be discussing the UDC2800 from Honeywell, a new release PID loop controller, and we're going to be going through quite a bit of information on that. I'm going to try to hold it to 30 minutes or so. We'll have questions at the very end. Like I said, this is recorded and it'll be available on the Loy Instrument YouTube site for you to download and review at a later date if you want to as well. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Jeff Berger. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at Loy Instrument. Started my career with Honeywell as a field service technician back in 1992, right out of tech school. Moved into OEM sales and then also distribution sales with Honeywell. And then for the last 10 years, I've been with Loy Instrument. And I first started with managing the Ohio branch and then moved into part owner and vice president of sales and marketing. So a little bit about Loy Instrument real quick. We're headquartered in Indianapolis. We were established in 1937 as a process control service company. In 1980, we became the first Honeywell industrial controls distributor in North America. And we now have the responsibilities for Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, with branch offices in Cleveland, Cincinnati, Fort Wayne, and then soon to be new office in Michigan. We have over 600 years of combined process and combustion control knowledge under our roof here at Loy Instrument. So we take pride in knowing the instrument and understanding the customer solutions so we can provide the best approach there to solve your needs out in the plant. So with that, let's go ahead and get started into the UDC2800 release. The agenda today is going to cover the UDC2800 product differentiators. So we're going to talk about the differences between the UDC2500, 3200, 3500, and then the UDC2800. We're going to talk about the display technology, Bluetooth communications, applications that the UDC2800 really shines in. And then last but not least, we're going to go through the model selection guides and do some crossovers for you so you can see how the models cross over from the old UDCs to the new UDC2800. A little bit about the Honeywell PMC division, which is the Process Measurement Control division at Honeywell. It involves a lot of different products, basically centered around process control, recording, actuation, maybe some large dampers or butterfly valves, sensing and control for analyzers for Honeywell Analytics, which would be pH, ORP, conductivity, dissolved oxygen. But all of these controls that Process Measurement Control Division brings forward is there to allow you to control your process, record the parameters, and it involves everything from the loop control to the actuation to the sensors. The UDC2800 is part of the UDC controller family, and some of you have probably seen these pictures on the right-hand side. The UDC family extends all the way back into the mid to late 80s for the quarter DIN controllers. And I started off with that top one there, the nice blue bezel. Had some plastic keys on it. That was the first Honeywell's release at the quarter DIN controller. And then they moved on to the UDC 2300, 3300 controller, which is in the middle there, which has the rubberized gray case. And then last but not least, the UDC 2500 and 3200 and 3500 down below there at the very bottom. The UDC family, what's been really nice about that product is Honeywell has really never changed the programming scheme within those controllers. They've always had the same PID loop and loop tuning, and they've also had a simple spelled out configuration parameter, so you can use the setup and function key to move very quickly through the parameters and get it configured for the application's needs. This is one of the nice things because, as we all know, some controllers require a manual in order to program them because they have codes that come up on the configuration, and it's hard to navigate through those type of controllers. But Honeywell's always done a very nice job at doing English spelled out prompts, and they've never changed that all the way up through this new UDC 2800. The configuration parameters are very spelled out, even more so now because you get more digits of vision or visual there on the front of the UDC 2800 controller. So it's even easier now than it was before. But if you know how to program an old UDC, the new UDC will follow that same configuration matrix and allow a very easy transition for you. The other things that's going to make a really easy transition, and I'm just going to point these right out at the very start of the slide. What Honeywell's done is they utilize the same bezel as the old UDC 3200 and 2500. So, for example, if you have an application that already has a bezel wired up in the processor, in the control panel, they had an old UDC in it, you could then take the UDC 2800 out of its case, and you could snap it into the existing wiring base that's out in the panel. This is a very nice feature. It allows an easy transition from the old UDCs to the new. The only thing that you'll have to be cognizant of is make sure that you place some type of sticker or something on the outside of the bezel in the panel that spells out the new part number. Because obviously the old UDC bezel will have the old UDC part number, and that can get kind of confusing when trying to do maintenance and calibrations and stuff like that. But it does use the same bezels, so you know, it makes a very nice, easy transition there. It also has the same wiring. So if you have a UDC 3200 or if you have a UDC 2500 that's already wired in the cabinet, the UDC 2800 is the same exact wiring. So, you know, for your inputs on 25, 26, and 27, it's going to be the same 25 and 26 and 27 on a UDC 2800. The major difference would be the boards inside of the UDC 2800 are not the same as the old boards. So there is some new surface mounting technology. Also, the microprocessor chip is different in the 2800. So you won't be able to exchange any of the boards interchangeably between the old and new, but the bezels and the wiring still remains the same. The function button and the setup button is the same on the old UDC as it is on the new as well. So as most of you know, as you move through the programming on the front bezel of the UDC, the setup key will move you up and down through the major prompts, and the function key will move you in and out of each one of those prompts, and then using your up and down arrow to change those to change the configuration parameter. So if you're configuring your input type, you can move your up and down arrow through the different inputs and select the input that is used in your application. So those are all still the same. The lower display button is still the same as well. So the lower display will toggle you through deviation from set point, your percent output, and allows you to rotate on that bottom display as it did on the old UDCs. Auto manual key is still the same. The only difference between the 2800 and the older UDCs is the fact that now when you run a set point program, you have to use the setup and up arrow at the same time to either place the program in hold or run the program. The other difference is if you're choosing different set points, which the new UDC 2800 has up to 4 set points, you have to press the function key in order to move through the other set points that you want the operator to be able to choose. So other than that, everything else is still the same. So it makes a really nice, easy transition for your operations out on the plant floor. If they're used to using the old UDC, the new one won't be a problem at all. Here's a lineup of the UDCs that Honeywell currently has. So kind of wanted to give you a picture here a little bit on functionality and price. Starting over on the very bottom left-hand corner there, Honeywell has UDC 700 and a DC 1000, very standard type of on-off control, very low functionality, low price. and then also offers a nice line of indicators for process down at that bottom left-hand corner. As you move up through the right-hand side, you have the UDC 1700 and 1200, which are 16th in and 8th in controllers and high limits. And then as you move through the middle there, the UDC 2500 and 3200 are the ones that the UDC 2800 is currently replacing. And we'll talk through the key differentiators between the 2800 and those two controllers here in the next slide. The UDC 3500, as we all know, that's the highest functional controller that Honeywell has. It has 2 loops of built-in control. You can do cascade control. It has up to 5 inputs, 3 control outputs, 4 alarm outputs with very high accuracy. The 3500 is going to be replaced with a dual loop UDC 2800, which is going to be released in March of 2023. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that. As soon as that's released, we'll probably do another Tech Tuesday. But for those of you that use the high functional UDC 3500, the 2800 will be replacing that in March of 2023. So let's talk a little bit about the 3200 and the 2500 and how it relates to the new 2800. Most of the things that you'll see on this chart here have been carried over to the 2800. So for example, you still have a single loop of control. The control output types are on, off, PID, current, motor position, 3-position step. The UDC 2800 does do slide wire position proportional control. So that was brought over to the 2800 from the 3200. They still have the auto tune and fuzzy logic. There's been no change there. If you have a controller that you're replacing, you can actually take or extract the PID tuning set, plug it into a new UDC 2800, and it will operate just the same as the old. It does have a little bit faster scanning, so the sample rate is at 100 milliseconds versus 166 milliseconds on the 3200 and 2500. So you'll probably get a little bit more finite control, a little bit faster scan rate in order to scan through your PID tuning constants to give you some very nice control at set point. The operator modes are still the same. You still have the auto, manual, auto, remote set point. The big difference is those items that are highlighted in green. So for example, the set point program features on the 2800 allows you now to have 8 set point programs with 8 segments each. The program link up feature gives you the ability to then take those 8 programs with 8 segments each and combine them together to give you a total of 64 segments. So that's a pretty powerful quartered in set point programmer. If you have an application like a batch application or something that requires a recipe to ramp and soak the temperatures, this might be a good solution for you if you're using, 8 or fewer set point programs. The old controller, 3200 and 2500, had one program, or the 3200 could be expanded to have 4 set point programs. But now with the added memory in the CPU of the 2800, it allows us to expand that to 8. The local set points have also been expanded to 4. So on the UDC 3200, you could have 3. On the 2500, you could have 2. And as well as the PID tuning sets. So they've expanded that to 4 PID tuning sets over the 2 that the 3200 and 500 had. What's nice about this is that if you have a multi-segment program that you're running, or multiple programs that you're running with ramp and soaks, you can now choose multiple different PID sets based on the temperature range that you're trying to control at. So this again will give you a little bit tighter control based on where you're at in your temperature range. And again, it offers a either you can choose manually the PID set you want to run, or with an alarm event, you can have the program automatically choose the PID set that you want to run. Number of remote set points is still 1 for all the controllers and the 2800. And the input math function is actually a standard feature now on the 2800. So the 2800, you can get the feed forward, the uh, uh, add, subtract, multiply, divide, average, and then also you can have carbon control in the input math algorithm as well. So if you have a carbon application, a heat treat application, this will take care of that math function as well. Analog inputs and outputs. So you're still analog inputs are still 2 compared to the UDC 3200 or 2500. The accuracy has been increased to 0.15% of full scale. The 3200 was 0.2 and the UDC 2500 was 0.25. So it gives you a little bit better accuracy as well. Sample rate, we talked about that. We're now able to sample at 100 milliseconds. So that's gives you a little bit better sampling rate for when you're doing your process control and tuning. Universal inputs is still at 2, which matches up with the 3200. The other big advantage or the big improvement is the display technology on the 2800. So instead of the vacuum fluorescent display that the old UDCs had, which if you have some old UDCs out in your plant, you'll see over time that those displays will lose a little bit of their intensity over time, and you have to replace the display. The new display on the 2800 is a TFT technology, which gives you very, very good pixel rating, 320 by 240 full color. So now you have the ability to dissimulate the different variables on the front display by, your process variable is white, your set point is orange, alarms are red. So it gives you a real quick view of what's going on with your process. The other big advantage of the 2800 is the communication. So it still has the Modbus protocol, the Ethernet TCP/IP for Modbus RS-45. It does not have the IR technology, but it does have Bluetooth. We're going to go into a little bit more about the Bluetooth here in the further slides, but the Bluetooth is a very nice feature, allows you to back up programs, download programs to multiple UDCs, allows you to connect up to the UDC very quickly. Within seconds, you can have all of your maintenance data and process data right on your phone or smart device while you're in front of the controller. So to summarize a little bit on this graph here, the accuracy is 40% better than the older UDCs. Sample speed is 40% faster. You get the larger TFT display, Bluetooth technology, and again, it's 100% backward compatible. So same wiring. You don't have to change your drawings if you're an OEM. The drawings will be the same for your wiring. And then it's the same quarter DIN case as the older UDCs. Here's a picture of the new display. So this kind of moves through the different variables on the display and shows you where they're located. We always have the process variable at a larger font up in the upper display, the same as the older UDCs. It had a little bit larger font for the process variable. Your set point is going to be right below that, which is highlighted by 2. You have a deviation bar graph, which is 3. So that can be either process variable, set point, or percent output. So it gives you a little bit of a bar graph indication on where you're at in your total range. Number 4 is your alarms. So if you have an output failure, an input failure, it'll actually count up and it'll tell you how many alarms you have active. So this is basically 1 out of 3 alarms that are currently active on this UDC. Lower display is still going to be your percent output. So this the full range is -5 to 105%. Most customers use 0 to 100% or somewhere in between. But this will indicate your final control device, how how much power is being sent out to the final control device, or the if it's an actuator, where is the actuator on the scale of open to close. Up at the top left, we have the mode of operation. So this is going to be auto or manual indication. Below that, on number 7, we have your alarms. it'll actually highlight the alarm that's active. And in the UDCs, you have two alarm outputs. Digital input, which is located under terminal or number 8 here. So that's DI 1 or 2. Same thing with 9, that's DO 1 or 2 on the left-hand side. The other nice thing that they put on this display is on all the displays, it doesn't matter where you're at, on 10 and 11, it'll actually show you on 10 if you have communications active and up and running. So you'll have a green indication there when your communications is working. And then 11 is your Bluetooth technology. So when you have Bluetooth active, it'll have that highlighted in blue for you. So let's talk real quick about some of the Bluetooth connectivity, which is really nice on the UDC. There's no other controller at this point that has this functionality, but can probably be assured that within a quick period here, there'll probably be other controllers with this. So with the Bluetooth technology, within 2 seconds, you can be connected up with your iPhone or with the smart device, connected up using a free app that Honeywell has. It's the Easy app or Easy Set, which you can download from the App Store. Currently, the app only works on the iOS Apple devices. Honeywell is qualifying that app to be ran on Androids. So within the next month or two, I know they're currently working on this. That should be out for release pretty soon. They wanted to keep it in line with some of the other devices that Honeywell has that currently works on Bluetooth, which would be the Honeywell Smart Line Communicator that talks to the Honeywell smart transmitters, and that also works on Android or the Apple. So with the Bluetooth connectivity and the Easy Set, you can upload, download configurations. You can modify, you can save them for future download. You can export them to a CSV file. You can also look at maintenance information. So current operating parameters, digital inputs, alarm status, identify internal or analog input problems by using it. So it also works as a maintenance device as well. The nice thing is the other functionality that it brings is the cybersecurity part of it, and the fact that when you walk by a device that's enabled with the Bluetooth for the UDC, if you walk by it with your phone and you want to connect to it, the first thing it will do is it will pop up a code. And this would be a numeric code that you then plug into your phone. And then once you're synced up with the code, it will acknowledge the UDC and it will continue to bring in the operating parameters and the configuration into your smart device. So there is some security there between the device and the smartphone or smart device. So one of the things I guess, wanted to point out is you're not going to be able to just walk by a UDC arbitrarily and then start picking up the configuration parameters or maintenance items without without you knowing, because it's going to have you put in a code in order for those two communications to happen. This is some of the pictures of the displays that would be available on the smart device, and we're going to blow up a couple of these so that you can see them a little bit larger scale here. But again, upload configurations, download configurations, offline and online configurations, and maintenance data. The other thing that Honeywell has done is if you have the older UDCs where you use the Pi software from Honeywell to configure the controller through the IR wand or through an IR port on your PC. If you've done that in the past and you've saved those configurations, you can actually export that configuration into the new EasySet app and download it to the new UDC2800. So it does allow for a transition there. If you do have those old files, you can import them into the new EasySet. Here's a couple displays here of what the app would look like on your smart device. So when you walk up to a UDC, it will acknowledge that the UDC is there, and it'll ask you if you want to connect. Once you connect, it'll come up with a code on the front of the UDC, which it'll ask you to enter into the easy set so that the communications can take place. Once you have that done, you can then pull up the online configuration, and the online configuration will be listed just as it is in the UDC. So on the left-hand side, you'll have all the major prompts that are in the UDC for configuration. And then you'll also be able to then go into each one of those prompts and choose what type of parameter you want to set it at. So for example, this is a picture of the input one. So when you choose input one type, you'll come over here to the right side, you'll hit the drop down arrow there, and it'll let you choose what type of input. So whether it be a thermocouple, high level, low level input, it'll let you choose those, as well as every other configuration parameter that's available, in that area. Maintenance data will give you the process variable, the set point, the mode of operation. If you're in manual or auto, the output percent. It'll actually give you status on alarms, the device type that you're hooked up to. And then you can come into either digital inputs or alarms, and that'll link you right into those two sections that'll give you real-time maintenance data. This is a display of the dashboard. This is the first display that would come up when you're communicating to the UDC. So when you get it powered up and everything's connected, it'll actually come up and it'll look almost like the faceplate of the UDC. It'll have your process variable, your local set point, the percent output, and then along the left-hand side, it'll give you your mode of operation, your alarms, the digital ins and digital outs. Real quick, a couple applications. The UDC product line is really used in a wide variety of applications in the industry. You all know where you're using single loop controls throughout your plant, or if you're an OEM, you know how you're utilizing those on your OEM piece of equipment. But a lot of times these are used in furnaces, boilers, environmental chambers, cookers, dryers, freezers, anything that has a closed loop of control. And when I say closed loop, that means you have your sensor, you have your final control element, and then you have your PID controller, and all of those are interconnected so that you can control the process at whatever set point that you're trying to achieve. In the heat treat world, the big thing nowadays, especially if you're in aerospace, is AMS 2750. And these controllers fully comply with the new requirements of AMS 2750 as far as resolution and also the number of digits that you're able to read out for your temperature. The 2800 has a total of 10 digits that you can read out for temperature. And it also has the accuracy and the displayability of reading in the tenths for the AMS 2750 requirements. This picture right here is a real simple picture of a multi-zone oven with the UDC 2800s controlling independent zones with a Honeywell paperless recorder recording the furnace pressure. So I guess the point that I want to make on this is that if you are involved in AMS 2750 operations where you require that level of resolution accuracy, the 2800 fully complies with that. So let's talk a little bit about the model numbers. So Honeywell typically has some pretty long model numbers, but they did make it easy in the transition between the old and the new model number selection. So what I did here on the left-hand side is the new UDC 2800. On the right-hand side is the 2500. So up at the very top of the key here for the UDC 2800, you'll see here that it says DC 2800 or DC 2900. What you're going to do is you're going to select the one that complies with the voltage that you're trying to achieve. So the DC 2800 is for 100 to 240 volt input and the DC2900 is for those applications where it's 24-volt AC or DC. So that was a little bit of created some confusion a little bit, and that some customers thought a DC2900 needed to be used for a 3200 conversion, but that's not it at all. It's basically just the voltage requirement. As you move through the model selection guide, if you have a 2500 in the field that has table number 1 where you're calling out your outputs for alarms or your main output, if you follow along the very first selection where it says 0, C, E, A, T, and R, you'll see that on the left-hand side on the 2800, all of those match up except for one, and I'll point that out in a second here. So if you have a 4 to 20 output and you had a DC 2500C, it's going to be a DC 2800C. If you had a relay electromechanical output and you had a 2500E, it's going to be a DC 2800E. So the only one that does not line up is the solid state relay, which is if you had a DC 2500A, that is not available on a new UDC 2800. The alarm outputs are still the same except for the solid state. So again, if you had a DC 2500 AA, that is not available on the 2800, but all the other options are. So relay, electromechanical, open collector, current output, dual collector, transistor type. So all of the same features, and the model selection actually works out the same. So if you had a DC 2500 CE, it would be a DC 2800 CE. So there's no change there. On the next selection, which is table 2 is where you would typically select your communications protocol, your digital inputs, the digital outputs, auxiliary outputs, and your infrared. On the UDC 2800, you're still selecting those same things. The only difference is when you choose your firmware type, so this would be under the software, you're only going to have 2 selections, and it's either going to be an S or an F. So the S is the standard software, and the standard software includes all of those math algorithms that we talked about earlier. The only additional item that you're able to choose would be an F, which is for your set point programmer. So if you choose an F, that means you're going to get 8 set point programs and 8 segments each. As we move through the table 3 is still the same. You still have your selections of input 1 and input 2 with 4 to 20 or thermocouple input. And you have additional slide wire input or carbon control if you're doing a heat treat carburizer. Table 4 is your approvals, so UL, CSA, CE, if you need those approvals for your operation. And then you move down through documentation and certification, extended warranty. So all of the choices are still the same, except for the S or F, and with the exception of the A for the solid state. But it's a pretty easy transition between the 2 model numbers. The next step is the UDC 3200. On the 3200, again, it's the same. So if you're ordering a DC 3200 CE, it's going to be a DC 2800 CE. Again, we do have the S or F, obviously, and that's going to take care of the standard math or the set point programmer. And everything else is still the same. Obviously, we're not having the selection of R for infrared, but everything else is still the same in the transition there. So with that, we're going to open it up for some questions. I just wanted to let you know I did put some links, resource links on this presentation for you. You can copy and paste them into your browser. So we have the product manual, the tech and spec, a brochure. We'll also have the YouTube, the Loy Instrument YouTube site with the connection there to go in and view this presentation at a later time. And then also the Loy Instrument website, you can go in there and download information and take a look and see what else we might have for you. So with that, I'm going to open it up for any questions. So if you want to unmute your mic and ask away, we'll answer them one at a time. I forgot to mention also that the UDC 2500 high limit, Honeywell is currently in the process of releasing a UDC 2800 high limit. The first UDC 2800 high limit with non-FM approval will be ready for release and sale at the end of December of this year. The FM approval is currently with FM, and we're waiting to hear back from them on how quick that's going to be approved. We don't have a definitive word yet back from FM. It kind of depends on what their backlog is. But the non-FM UDC 2800 will be released for sale at the end of December. We still have some stock on the 2500 high limits, and we also are now getting stock in on the UDC 2800s. So we do have available stock on the 2800s. We still have some of the 3200 and 2500 controllers also in stock. So if you need some time to transition between the old control and the new control, we still have some of the older ones for you as well. So if we don't have any questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. We will have the link. We'll send that out to everybody that was on the call today for the YouTube site. So feel free to log in and take a look at that. Also, give us a shout if you have any questions or if we can help you convert any of your model numbers out in your plant to the new model. We'd love to be able to do that for you. So with that, appreciate all your time. Thanks again, and look forward to seeing our next Tech Tuesday. We'll send that out, and we will discuss another product here in the near future for you.